This is Limelight America. Here's your host, Michael Drew Shaw.
Thank you, Lynette, and welcome to Limelight America, where we present one-on-one personal conversations with interesting people from all walks of life. These up-close encounters with people of the fascinating and inspiring kind include business, entertainment, sports, and artistic entrepreneurs, scholars, role models, and philanthropists who impact the quality of life for us all. It may seem strange today when there are banks on just about every corner and lenders incessantly hawk low-interest loans on TV and radio, but at the turn of the century, banks were only interested in lending money to the wealthy. In fact, many things today's bank customers take for granted, such as checking accounts, savings accounts, home mortgages, and other installment credit, simply didn't exist, at least not for the working man. They had to hide their savings under mattresses and borrow from loan sharks at astronomical interest rates. But Amedeo Peter Giannini changed all that. An unusual focus on the little people, Giannini built what was at his death the largest bank in the country and created the model for modern international banking. The son of poor Italian immigrants, Giannini was born in San Jose, California in 1870. At age 14, he quit school to assist in his stepfather's produce business. By 19, the amiable young charmer was a partner in the thriving enterprise, built largely on his reputation for fairness and integrity. In 1892, Giannini married the daughter of an Italian immigrant who had made a fortune in real estate. At the time, Giannini had income from investments of about $250 a month, plus his half interest in his stepfather's firm. He decided that was enough. "I don't want to be rich," he said, "because no man actually owns a fortune. It owns him." So he sold his interest in the family business to his employees for $100,000 and retired at the ripe old age of 31. But fate had other plans, and unbeknownst to Giannini, his real career was about to begin. Less than a year after he went into retirement, his father-in-law died, and Giannini took over his seat on the board of Columbus Savings and Loan Society, a small bank in San Francisco's Little Italy section of North Beach. But Giannini soon found himself at odds with the other directors, who had little interest in lending money to hardworking immigrants. Like most banks of the day, the Columbus S&L dealt only with business people and the wealthy. Giannini tried desperately to convince the board it would be immensely profitable to lend to the working class, which he knew from personal experience to be hardworking and very creditworthy. But the board turned a deaf ear. So, the determined entrepreneur decided to strike out on his own. In 1904, Giannini raised $150,000 from his stepfather and 10 friends and opened the Bank of Italy in a converted saloon directly across the street from the Columbus S&L. From the very beginning, Giannini intended his bank to be for the little fellow, and he routinely lent money to farmers, merchants, and laborers. He also encouraged recent immigrants to move their small savings from their mattresses to his bank. The Bank of Italy continued to grow and prosper until the morning of April 18, 1906, when, like a lot of folks in the Bay Area, Giannini was thrown from his bed as the great San Francisco earthquake turned much of the city to rubble. After ensuring the safety of his family, Giannini raced to North Beach in a vegetable wagon, arriving at his bank just ahead of the fire that was sweeping through the downtown area. Sifting through the ruined building, he discreetly loaded $80,000 in gold, coins, and securities into the wagon and, wary of looters, covered it all with a layer of fruits and vegetables. In the days after the disaster, most San Francisco bankers wanted area banks to remain shut until the damage could be sorted out. But Giannini had a different plan. He set up shop on the docks near North Beach. With a wooden plank straddling 2 barrels for a desk, he extended credit on a man's face and a signature to small businesses and individuals desperately in need of money to help rebuild their lives. Giannini became a hero, and his actions spurred the city's redevelopment. His experience in 1906 left him a changed man. At the time of the fire, "I was trying to make money for myself, but the fire cured me of that," he recalled. He saw how the power of banking could improve people's lives and made that his life's mission. He came up with the idea for a statewide system of branch banks that could bring monetary resources to far-flung communities. By opening branches, I foresaw that we could give better service to everybody, he explained. At the time, no other bank in America had such a system, prompting many in the business to deride Giannini's dream as mere folly. But in 1909, Giannini opened his first out-of-town branch in San Jose, and in 1913 he expanded into Southern California. In less than 10 years, the Bank of Italy had 24 branches throughout California and was the fourth largest bank in the state. Then in 1928, Giannini established the Transamerica Corporation to act as a management company for his extensive businesses, which now included industries other than banking. The following year, he combined Bank of Italy with other banks he had acquired under the name Bank of America. By the end of the 1920s, Bank of America had become one of the largest banks in the nation. Giannini retired a second time in 1930, convinced that his successors would carry on in his spirit. But during the Great Depression, Transamerica management shifted focus and tried to sell off some of Bank America's branches. Feeling betrayed, Giannini waged a successful proxy fight to regain control. Once more running the show, Giannini successfully nurtured his beloved bank through the banking crisis of March 1933 and doubled its assets in the next 6 years. By the time Giannini retired as active head in 1945, Bank of America had become the largest bank in the United States. Surprisingly, when Giannini died in 1949, he left behind a relatively meager estate of just $500,000. But it was purely by choice. He could have been a billionaire, but he disdained great wealth, fearing it would cause him to lose touch with the people he wanted to serve. In the final analysis, Giannini's greatness lay not in the money he left behind, but in the bank he created, a bank that had grown to prominence on the once radical notion of serving ordinary citizens. On a downtown corner in Pittsburgh, there is a stately multi-story granite building, the largest single artist museum anywhere. Inside is an amazing collection of old photos, magazine covers, collages, and pop art. On the third floor, there's a room devoted to money, U.S. and foreign currency in a wild and crazy series of forms, including a floor-length smoking jacket made of $100 bills. In a glass case in that same room is a letter from the New York Museum of Fine Art. A polite letter, but a rejection nonetheless. Soup cans were, shall we say, beneath the dignity of New York's elite. The letter is dated July 1953. The addressee, Andy Warhol. Most of us know that a man by the name of Wrigley made chewing gum famous. He built a towering skyscraper in the heart of the Windy City and invested millions in the Chicago Cubs, hoping for a world championship in his lifetime, which never came. But did you know that Mr. Wrigley was a problem child who ran away from home on numerous occasions, only to be returned and punished with a job as a kettle stirrer in his father's soap factory? Although he was hard to handle as a child, Wrigley was born with a special gift that became apparent in his early 20s. He was a great salesman. Wrigley convinced his father to let him go on the road as a soap peddler. He increased sales dramatically, but wanted his own business. In the late 1800s, he bought the rights to a gum recipe and started placing small countertop displays in restaurants near the cash register. Wrigley then took his profits and bought phone books from every city in America. He mailed a stick of gum to every person listed, 1.5 million at the time. He continued this simple but effective marketing technique into the 1920s until he was the biggest advertiser in the United States. The rest, as they say, is history. Wrigley's mailing plays well in this edition of Limelight America. Tom Feldenstein is our guest today. He'll talk about, instead of spending $2.5 million on a Super Bowl commercial, send him a bag of chips. Our next guest on Limelight America, Tom Feldenstein, who, well, I'll just read this credit. He's the first recipient of the Visionary Award presented by the Council of International Restaurant Brokers. Tom is the CEO of Tom Feldenstein's Power Marketing Academy. The people that I know, that know you, their main question was, how'd you get this guy to sit down long enough to talk to you for 45 minutes? First of all, connect us geographically, Tom. Tell us, where are you talking to us from right now, and what are you doing?
I'm in Palm Beach, Florida. I happen to be home from all my travels this afternoon and sitting at my home overlooking the Atlantic Ocean and all the beautiful palm trees and the 80-degree weather.
Tom, let's begin our discussion, our visit, by dialing way back and find out where you came from. Tell us about the little boy, Tom Feldenstein, and how you grew up. Where were you born? And give us the Reader's Digest.
I grew up in a little farm town in Missouri, St. Joseph, Missouri, about 80,000 population, and it's about 50 miles from Kansas City north. It's where the Pony Express started. That's about the only thing it's famous for. Very conservative, but grew up in a Leave It to Beaver family in the 50s with great core values and in a very spiritual home.
You're a giving guy. You just clarified your roots in Missouri. I know you're right from Missouri because you don't say Missouri.
You're absolutely right. And people always tease me and I say Missouri. They said, God, you must be a native. I said, well, I really am.
You've consulted with, household name products and companies for a long, long time. Give us a thumbnail sketch of some of those companies.
Many of the clients that I've worked with have ranged from Texaco to the Hyatt hotel chain, to Disney, to Coca-Cola, to Pepsi, Wolfgang Puck, to Subway. I just came back in the last 2.5 months from the United Kingdom doing strategy and speaking with the Subway people. I was on Fox last year on the Super Bowl, on the pregame just before the kickoff, and they were interviewing me on what I thought about the TV commercials. And I said, well, it's pretty ludicrous to pay $2.7 million for 30 seconds and then spend another $1 million to produce the spot. It's just a big ego trip. Pepsi was a big sponsor, and they also owned Frito-Lay. And I said, why are you spending all that? Why would they spend all the money there? Why don't they just put a bag of Frito-Lay in everyone's mailbox in America and let them sample the product? It would be cheaper, and people would go out and buy it. I had one of the largest strategic marketing firms, and I sold it 5 years ago. It was pet-friendly. They brought their dogs to work. Anyone that had a baby brought their babies to work. I had a cook come in once a week and cook meals for everybody. Here's the most fascinating thing. You go into a restaurant, and you walk in, and the person that greets you is a hostess. Now, that first impression is the most important impression that you get. But do you know that hostess is the least paid person in the entire operation?
Not that I want you to be a name dropper or give us a whole litany of famous names, but it is relevant to our discussion. You began with Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's. How do you just get a job running the marketing for McDonald's?
I had a previous career running the marketing for one of the largest retail chains in America, and I'd worked my way up from the bottom there, starting in one retail department store. And just by happenstance, a friend introduced me to somebody, and it was one of those lucky breaks that one gets in life. It was just extraordinary. I always tell everybody I got my doctor's degree in marketing from McDonald's. Ray started back in 1955, is when he found this little place out in California. Now there's 31,000 McDonald's all over the world. It's my opinion that the majority of businesses in America, that within 3 to 5 miles of each location is where 90% of your business comes from. But most people will not focus in their neighborhood or in their backyard. Business is no different than sports. The teams with the best players win.
Tom, always a pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Hope to talk to you soon. Take care.
When did you really first come to the realization that you were a star?
Well, not to play a game of semantics with you, I still don't consider myself a, quote, star.
All right, you build companies to sell them. I started out with Chongqing Chinese Foods in 1944, and I sold to R.J. Reynolds Tobacco for $63 million in '67. I have 7 banks because I had to put the money somewhere.
Radio's most talked about talk show, Limelight America.
Women make up just a fraction of top-paid executives in America, but they take home less than half the salary of the highest-paid men. Barbara Mistick, a dream warrior who built 2 organizations from startup, is trying to level the paying field. As director of Seton Hill College's Education Center for Women in Business, she is nationally recognized as an innovator in entrepreneurship training for women. From Seton Hill in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, the center's most recent initiative is a website that combines educational and career resources for women. Before Richard Simmons dealt meals, before Susan Powder tried to stop the insanity, and long before there were fat blockers, fen-phen, and liposuction, an overweight housewife from Queens, New York made a life-changing discovery. Staying on a diet was easier when you shared the experience. From this simple but profound revelation, Jean Nidetch launched Weight Watchers and gave birth to the modern diet industry. Born in 1923, Jean was an overweight child whose overweight mother rewarded her with food. Her entrance into adult life was far from easy. Though she dreamed of being a teacher, her father died shortly after she enrolled in college, and Jean was forced to drop out and work at a number of different jobs to help support the family. When she was 24, Jean married Marty Nidetch. "I was fat and he was fat," Jean reveals in a 1981 McCall's interview. "It was our common bond. I ate all the time to be happy, and yet food only made me sad. I thought God had blessed thin people and God had cursed me, so my fate was sealed." Finally, in 1961, desperate to lose weight, the 38-year-old mother of 2 paid a visit to the New York Department of Health Obscenity Clinic, where she was put on a diet of low-fat proteins and plenty of fruits and vegetables. The diet was working, but she found herself continually cheating. To boost her morale, she called up 6 overweight friends and invited them over to talk. With her friends, she discovered she could talk freely about her food excesses, and they could do the same. The 6 all started the diet and began meeting on a weekly basis. Members of the group started bringing other overweight friends to the weekly get-togethers, and within 2 months, more than 40 women were meeting. Each week, they weighed in and talked, and each week the scales recorded a weight loss. Thanks to the help of her friends, by October 1962, Jean had lost more than 70 pounds and reached her goal of 142 pounds. The experience turned Nidetch into a weight loss zealot. Having exorcised her own food demons, she replaced her compulsion to eat with a drive to help others achieve what she had. She encouraged her friends to spread the word about their program, and the group continued to grow. When she began receiving phone calls from overweight people, many of them recluses asking for help, she drove around the New York metropolitan area visiting individuals or groups. Among them were garment executive Albert Lippert and his wife Felice. Concerned about their growing girth, the couple had heard about Nidetch's amazing weight loss program and decided to see for themselves if it really worked. It did. In just 1 week, Lippert lost 7 pounds and his wife lost 4. He would eventually shed 53 pounds while his wife lost 50. Lippert's marketing instincts were fired by the program's potential, and he became convinced that Nidetch had found the formula for a successful business. With the Weight Watchers plan, I had provided something to myself that I needed and wanted, Lippert recalled. I knew that there were hundreds of thousands of people out there like myself who could benefit. I was certain it would work. Though Nidetch admits she would have preached her program for nothing on a street corner, Lippert persuaded her to enter a partnership with him, and in May 1963, Weight Watchers Incorporated opened its first office above a movie theater in Little Neck, New York. Within a year, the business had achieved such success locally that there were simply not enough room in the small office to hold all the Weight Watcher members. It was at this point that Lippert suggested to Nidetch that they begin selling Weight Watchers franchises. Using a process that Lippert once likened to giving away razors to sell razor blades, he and Nidetch sold the franchises for a relatively low price, but required each franchise owner to pay the company 10% of their gross. It wasn't long before franchises they had sold for as little as $2,000 were returning profits upwards of $100,000 a year. Within 5 years, the company had 91 franchises in 43 states. In 1968, Nidetch and Lippert decided to go public, and Weight Watchers Incorporated became Weight Watchers International Incorporated. In 1973, more than 17,000 Weight Watcher members from around the world gathered in New York City's Madison Square Garden to celebrate the 10th anniversary of Weight Watchers. At that gala event, Nidetch announced that she would be resigning as president of the company but would remain on as a consultant. Over the next 5 years, Nidetch would continue to preach the Weight Watchers gospel on countless radio and television programs, enthusiastically recounting her success story. By 1977, the company claimed to be recruiting more than 20 million new members a year. This success attracted the attention of H.J. Heinz Company, which purchased Weight Watchers for $72 million in 1978. As part of the deal, Lippert joined the Heinz board and Nidetch agreed to stay on as a consultant. By 2005, Weight Watchers had become the world's largest company in the field of personal weight control, bringing in more than $4 billion in annual revenue. Nidetch has helped change the shape of millions of overweight men and women worldwide. A testament to her tremendous impact on both the diet industry and the world, Ladies' Home Journal magazine voted her one of the 100 most important women of the 20th century. Now in our next case, we have grounds for success. Everyone knows Starbucks, the retail chain that in the 1990s turned coffee drinking into a national pastime. But few know Howard Schultz, the self-effacing chairman, CEO, and mastermind behind Starbucks' astonishing growth. By bringing Italy's coffeehouse culture to the United States and packaging it for mass consumption, this maverick marketer transformed a little-known four-store chain into the leading retailer of specialty coffee in North America. Born in 1953, Schultz was raised in the rough-and-tumble Bayview housing project in Brooklyn. His mother worked as a receptionist, and his father held a variety of jobs, none of which paid much or offered such basic benefits as medical coverage for him and his family. When Schultz was 7, his father lost his job as a diaper service delivery driver after breaking his ankle. At the time, sick pay or even legally mandated disability assistance were luxuries to those in low-paying jobs. And in the ensuing months, the family was literally too poor to put food on the table. It was a memory that Schultz would carry with him into adulthood. Determined to build a better life for himself, Schultz channeled his energy into high school sports and earned an athletic scholarship to Northern Michigan University. After graduating with a bachelor's degree in business in 1975, Schultz immediately began working in the sales and marketing division of Xerox Corporation. Schultz excelled at Xerox, so much so that he attracted the attention of the Swedish housewares company Perstorp AB, which recruited him at the age of 26 to be vice president and general manager of their American subsidiary, Hammerplast USA. While at Hammerplast, Schultz noticed that a small Seattle company named Starbucks, after the first made in Herman Melville's classic Moby Dick, was buying an unusually high number of Hammerplast's espresso machines. Intrigued, he flew to Seattle to investigate and found 4 Starbucks outlets. Originally founded in 1971 as a single store near Seattle's famed Pike Street Market, Starbucks sold freshly roasted gourmet coffee beans as well as teas, spices, and various coffee-making accessories. Impressed by Schultz's energy and marketing skills, Starbucks owners Gerald Baldwin and Gordon Bowker, who possessed very little business knowledge, asked Schultz to become part of their operation. Enticed by their offer, which included part ownership, Schultz joined Starbucks as head of its marketing and retail operations in 1982. A year later, during a vacation in Italy, Schultz had what he has described as an epiphany. While sitting at an espresso bar, he realized that the coffee shop played a major role in the social life of most Italians. It was a focal point for the neighborhood, where friends met, mingled, and lingered at all hours of the day. Seeing this, I thought to myself, why not open a coffee bar in Seattle? Schultz recalls in an interview in the New York Times. Returning to Seattle, Schultz shared his epiphany with his fellow Starbucks owners. Although coffee was brewed in the shops, it was done so only at the request of customers and dispensed as free samples. And Baldwin and Bowker were unwilling to move beyond the store's core product offering. Convinced he had hit upon something big, Schultz left Starbucks to open his own espresso bar called The Daily. The venture was a hit. Schultz wanted to open more shops, but didn't have the funding he needed to expand. In a quirky twist of fate, a year later, he learned that Baldwin and Bowker wished to sell their outlets. So, after rounding up investors from the Seattle area, Schultz purchased the original Starbucks chain for $3.8 million and merged the stores with his own. Once in charge, Schultz set out to completely overhaul Starbucks, according to his vision. In addition to the $1 per cup basic brew, he expanded Starbucks offerings to include more exotic coffee beverages, such as espresso, cappuccino, cafe latte, iced coffee, and cafe mocha. He also sought to create a more appealing atmosphere for customers, the proverbial clean, well-lighted place where they could relax and enjoy coffee in comfort. But the most radical change Schultz made was to improve the way his company dealt with its employees. Convinced that friendly, efficient service would boost sales, he instituted a training program designed to groom knowledgeable employees who would enjoy working behind a counter, an occupation considered by many to be menial labor. Service is a lost art in America. It's not viewed as a professional job to work behind a counter, Schultz says. We don't believe that. We want to provide our people with dignity and self-esteem, so we offer tangible benefits. Among the benefits Schultz offers is complete health care coverage to both full and part-time employees, as well as stock options, practices that are virtually unheard of in corporate America. Starbucks has also set itself apart from the corporate grind by looking out for its growers. Not only does the company include fair trade coffee among its offerings, but it also has programs to teach farmers how to grow a better coffee bean, enabling them to sell to a wider range of buyers and earn decent profits. Among Starbucks' well-known charitable causes are schools and health clinics set up in rural coffee-growing communities. As a result of Schultz's vision, Starbucks experienced unprecedented growth throughout the 1990s, blossoming from 425 stores in 1994 to more than 2,200 stores in 1998. By 2005, Starbucks had 9,373 stores, although that number is surely to quickly grow as the company moves toward its goal of 30,000 stores worldwide. With annual sales topping $5 billion in 2005, Starbucks Corporation reigned as the nation's #1 specialty coffee retailer. Quite an impressive achievement for a blue-collar kid from the projects. But despite Starbucks' phenomenal success, what Howard Schultz seems most proud of is not how much he has earned, but the kind of company he has created. My dad was a blue-collar worker, Schultz explains in Inc. magazine. He didn't have health insurance or benefits, and I saw firsthand the debilitating effect that had on him and on our family. I decided if I was ever in the position to make a contribution to others in that way, I would. My greatest success has been that I got to build the kind of company my father never got to work for.
Limelight America is produced by the LA Radio Network.